Vox Box Podcast Episode 28. Sadly, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, they didn't have the Orchid Man.
What is thy bidding, my master?
There is great disturbance in the force.
The Vox Box Star Wars Podcast. Your source for Star Wars comics, news, and more. And now your host, Michael Corley.
Welcome back to Vox Box Star Wars Comic Book Podcast, Episode 28. It is titled, Whatever Happened to Jabba the Hutt? We open with Han Solo. He's in the rain. He's on an obscure planet called Orleon, and he's being surrounded in a cave by mercenaries sent by Jabba the Hutt. They sent blaster fire at him as he tried to peek around the corner of the cavern. He runs back inside and finds that Chewbacca is working on the Millennium Falcon. As always, the Millennium Falcon is having trouble. Han is noting, one, that he wishes he had come to this planet during the dry season, and that his hideout that he had from his past has sprung a lot of leaks since the last time he was here. He jokingly asks Chewbacca, "Do you know how bad wet Wookiee fur smells?" We hear his response and find that that is saying about half as bad as human hair and clothing that's wet. The mercenaries are closing in on them. Chewbacca and Han Solo open fire and kill 3 of them. We cut back to Jabba the Hutt. Now remember, again, in the comics, we have not yet gotten to Return of the Jedi, and we have not yet revealed the true form of Jabba the Hutt. This is a yellow humanoid with white mutton chops, and he is asking his flunkies, how many did we lose this time? And he's trying to explain to his thugs that they must destroy Han Solo, that even though he's a fantastic smuggler, and his Kessel Run that has become famous, even with all of that, the large debt that he has accrued means that he must be destroyed or other smugglers will do the same. We cut back inside and we see Han Solo trying to choke down nutrient paste from a can, and he is rather furious at their situation. Now, how did they get into this situation? We cut back to right after Han Solo left the wheel. We see the smoking and damaged Star Destroyer that had ended with the death of Jolee. When Han and Chewbacca try to go into warp, the Millennium Falcon begins to shake. In fact, Han Solo says, she's vibrating like a cantina dancer at a Tatooine Moisture Festival, which again is one of the most Star Wars things I've ever heard. As happens in The Empire Strikes Back, they see that they can set down in Orlean, a place that he has been in the past, and perhaps make emergency repairs. We see in the tiny corner as Chewbacca is trying to make repairs on the ship that neither of them has noticed that a small tracker has been placed on the ship. That is how Jabba the Hutt and his minions have found them. A wonderful little moment. I love that one of the minions is holding a small wand-like device that is creating a field to keep the rain off Jabba the Hutt. A great little moment, like in a gangster movie where an underling might hold an umbrella for a mob boss. That means that it's time for
Dramatic Reenactment.
Well, Han, my boy, this moment has been dreadfully long coming. I didn't truly expect you'd dare visit this old haunt, but I installed a bug to alert me just in case. Since this saves me the price of the bounty I've posted, I've ordered my lads to give you a swift, dignified death.
That reading of the yellow-skinned, mutton-chopped Jabba was by Joe Mignano from the HoloNet audio dramas. I love HoloNet dramas. You know the dramatic readings on this show, right? Well, that's that show, but it's the whole show. It's so impressive. You can check out Joe and his audio dramas at holonetaudiodramas.com. Thanks, Joe. As if things couldn't be going badly enough, Han Solo realizes that there's a stone mite inside. It was going after his nutrient paste. He says that they are ultimate scavengers. And then an old-timer told him how they had been turned into a biological weapon developed during the Clone Wars. Their bodies manufacture an acid that allows them to eat through anything. They look at the remnants of the tin. There's barely any of it left, and that was one stone mite. He realizes that if they don't get out of here soon, and they get into the Millennium Falcon, there won't be a ship to fly off on. That's when there's an explosion. Jabba the Hutt's goons are trying to blast their way in, and they're throwing proton grenades. It's beginning to crack the ceiling, and that's when things get serious. We see just outside the cave, the mercenaries are beginning to close in. One of them says, well, they wouldn't let us get this close unless they're already dead. Just to be safe, however, they fire into the cave. It causes a rock slide from the top, and a full swarm of stone mites begin to pour over the Millennium Falcon and come towards Chewbacca and Han. They are both getting beat up and bruised by the rockfall and by tiny bites from these stone mites. Han is able to get to the controls and begin to rev up the engine and shake most of them off. However, that doesn't get all of them. They have to act fast or they will die. When reports of Han's death come to light, Jabba himself is coming in. They are blasting their way with a larger laser cannon into the cave. They find a skeleton. It is humanoid, but then they realize it's one of theirs, and it's covered with stone mites. They yell, back to the ship! Back to the ship! We cut back inside the Millennium Falcon. There are still more stone mites pouring onto the Millennium Falcon, and Han has a final idea. He revs up the main reactor and creates a blazing heat outside the hull of the Millennium Falcon. He says, full hover power, Chewie! Let's see how these unwanted guests feel about having their food fry them! The problem is they can only keep it up for so long. Han is incredibly frustrated. He's saying, blast it! We made Darth Vader and the entire Empire look silly with this ship, and now we're going to be destroyed by insects. And that's when they decide to take a very direct approach. They take the main guns that we saw in so many films and fire them directly into the side of the mountain, and then they fly into the side of the mountain. The force of the rain, the force of the explosion, the force of going through the mountain finally manages to shake off the insects. If they had not, and within a few minutes the stone mites would have reduced it into a hollow shell. He suddenly realizes that Jabba's ship is following. But then he hears a blaster over the intercom as Jabba is seemingly gloating at him, about to destroy him. That's when he realizes the stone mites have gotten onto Jabba's ship. Jabba is already in a spacesuit. Jabba tells him that one of the idiots who had the laser borer that got into the cave had let them get onto it, and they got onto his ship. Jabba is telling him, you've got to take me on board. You've got to save me, Han. Jabba has no choice at this point. He has to eject from his ship in his spacesuit. If Han doesn't take him on board, he will be dead in a few hours from lack of oxygen. He is telling Jabba, well, our terms are very simple. 1, you remove the debt placed on us. 2, a little bit extra for the extra effort of, say, opening the airlock. But don't worry, you can think about it if you want. I mean, you've got a couple hours before your air runs out, unless one of those stone mites got onto your suit. And of course, reluctantly, Jabba the Hutt. And that ends Star Wars number 28. There will be some retconning later on, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, when we get to the quote-unquote real Jabba the Hutt. But until then, this was a fun little story. You have a wonderful day, and may the Force be with you.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So be it, Jedi.
Thank you for listening to the Vox Box Star Wars podcast. Go to voxboxpodcast.com to see panels from today's comic. Have a great day, and may the Force be with you.